For decades, forecasting was treated as a periodic discipline. Companies built annual plans, updated them quarterly, and used those forecasts as anchors for hiring, investment, and strategy. Forecasts were imperfect, but they were stable enough to guide execution. In 2026, that stability is gone. Across U.S. businesses, constant reforecasting has become the norm, and while it feels responsive, it carries a growing and often underestimated business cost. The root of constant reforecasting is persistent uncertainty. Demand shifts faster, costs fluctuate more frequently, interest rates, regulation, and supply conditions change with little warning. Leaders feel pressure to keep forecasts continuously updated, so plans reflect the latest information. On the surface, this looks prudent. In practice, it introduces friction that quietly erodes performance. The first cost of constant reforecasting is execution slowdown. When forecasts change repeatedly, teams hesitate to commit fully to plans. Projects begin, pause, restart, and change scope. Resources are reallocated midstream. Momentum is lost. Even when direction remains broadly the same, the act of reforecasting interrupts flow. Work progresses, but more slowly and with less confidence. Decision fatigue is another major cost. Each reforecast requires leadership attention. Meetings multiply. Scenarios are debated. Assumptions are questioned again and again. Over time, this drains executive focus from operating the business to endlessly recalibrating expectations. Important decisions are delayed not because information is missing, but because leaders are stuck validating numbers that may soon change again. Constant reforecasting also weakens accountability. When targets move frequently, it becomes harder to evaluate performance. Misses are attributed to changing assumptions rather than execution. Teams struggle to understand what success actually means. This ambiguity reduces ownership and lowers performance standards, even when intentions are good. Financial planning suffers as well. Budgets tied to shifting forecasts become unstable. Spending is approved cautiously, then pulled back, then reinstated. This stop-start pattern creates inefficiency. Vendors are renegotiated. Hiring plans are paused and resumed. The company pays a premium for flexibility it did not plan to need. There is also a hidden cost to credibility. Internally, frequent reforecasting signals that leadership lacks confidence in its own assumptions. Externally, investors and partners become skeptical when guidance changes often. Even if revisions are justified, repeated changes erode trust. Predictability, once lost, is difficult to regain. Constant reforecasting impacts employee morale more than many leaders expect. Teams experience shifting priorities as instability. Goals feel temporary. Effort feels provisional. This reduces motivation and increases burnout. People work harder to adapt but feel less rewarded when outcomes keep moving. Technology amplifies this dynamic. Real-time data makes it easier to update forecasts constantly. Dashboards refresh hourly. Scenarios multiply. While this increases visibility, it also increases temptation to react to short-term noise. Not every data change warrants a plan change, but constant reforecasting blurs that distinction. Strategically, constant reforecasting can crowd out long-term thinking. Leaders become focused on the next adjustment rather than the underlying trajectory. Strategy becomes reactive. Instead of asking where the business should be positioned, organizations focus on explaining why the latest forecast changed. Importantly, the cost is not just time, it is lost opportunity. While teams recalibrate, competitors execute. Markets move. Windows open and close. The company remains busy but less effective. This does not mean forecasting should stop. Forecasting is essential, The issue is frequency and purpose. When reforecasting becomes a reflex rather than a tool, it stops adding clarity and starts creating noise. Some companies are beginning to adjust. They separate forecasts from commitments. They allow forecasts to change without forcing immediate plan revisions. They define ranges instead of precise targets. This reduces the need for constant recalibration while preserving situational awareness. Others are shifting focus from forecast accuracy to execution resilience. Instead of trying to predict perfectly, they build systems that perform reasonably well across scenarios. This reduces dependence on constant reforecasting and restores momentum. Why the business cost of constant reforecasting matters in 2026 is that it represents a trade-off many companies do not measure. Responsiveness feels safe. Stability feels risky. But too much recalibration creates its own form of risk. The most effective organizations are learning that clarity matters more than precision. A slightly outdated forecast paired with committed execution often outperforms a perfectly updated forecast paired with hesitation. Constant reforecasting promises control, but often delivers distraction. It consumes energy without producing proportional value. Over time, it weakens execution, accountability, and trust. In a world where uncertainty is permanent, the goal is not to forecast more often. It is to build organizations that can execute despite imperfect forecasts. Companies that recognize this reduce the hidden cost of constant reforecasting and regain their ability to move forward decisively. That shift, more than any new model or tool, may determine which businesses remain effective in an environment that never fully settles.